Good day and welcome to Kuchu TV, a media project of the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance, USA, your African LGBT news source. In our feature today, we bring you special coverage on Nigeria. Nigeria, where an anti-gay law was passed early this year. Yes, an anti-gay law was passed on January 7th, 2014 in Nigeria that makes it illegal for people to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, and even transgender in Nigeria. We have received at the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance a lot of messages from a few Nigerian activists who wonder why there is silence around the LGBT human rights situation in Nigeria, which has actually worsened since the passing of the anti-gay law there. So, as Kuchu TV, aimed at amplifying the voice of our African brothers and sisters on the continent, we decided to do a special feature on Nigeria. Just to take you back a little bit, on January 7th, 2014, President Jonathan Goodluck, and good luck as you listen to this, President Goodluck Jonathan of Nigeria signed into law a bill that had been going on and on within Nigeria, being debated for quite a long time. The law that was signed is now referred to as the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act. At first glance, when you look at this law, mainly the title, you will think that Nigeria is making illegal same-sex marriages. Yes, that is one of the things that this law is intended for. However, do not be blinded. If you go in the depth, dive into the depth of this law, you will realize that this law is not so different from the anti-homosexuality law that was passed in Uganda in February this year. This law that we are talking about in Nigeria does not only criminalize same-sex marriages. In fact, that is not a priority for Nigerian LGBT people. Rather, it includes these kind of provisions. There is a 10-year prison sentence for any person who witnesses, abets, or aids any form of gender non-conforming or homosexual activity. It further goes on to say that it prohibits Nigerians from registering, operating, or participating in gay clubs, societies, gay organizations, or organizations that deal with LGBT issues directly or indirectly. So you can see that this law is actually not very different from the law that we are all concerned about in Uganda. We at Kuchu Diaspora Alliance thank all of you for all your efforts that you have put in towards supporting the LGBT human rights movement in Uganda, for all the work that you have done backdoor to ensure that this law is erased from our books and that the human rights situation in Uganda is made better, is put out there in the news. But today, the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance is challenging you to something. Something needs to be done on the Nigerian human rights situation for LGBT persons. But to help you understand what this pain has caused and how the activists on the ground in Nigeria are feeling, we have brought you two very important and dedicated activists from Nigeria. One, Ifeanyi Orakuzile, and Davis Mac-Iyalla, based in London, both very amazing names, who will further tell us about this law, the effects it has had on Nigerian LGBT persons, and what can we all do about what is happening in Nigeria. These activists are coming up next, as you will see. Thank you very much. All right, welcome back to Kuchu TV, a media project of the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance, your African LGBT news source. As promised to you earlier, I have a very wonderful activist, a human rights defender, LGBT human rights defender from Nigeria, working on the ground in Nigeria, currently at the International AIDS Conference in Australia. This activist is called Ifeanyi Orazulike. Very wonderful name, easy to pronounce. And Ifeanyi is here to help us further unpack this, the situation of LGBT human rights in Nigeria. Ifeanyi, do you mind introducing yourself to the viewers?
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. My name is Ifeanyi Kelly Orazulike. I work for International Center for Advocacy on Right to Health, which is an LGBT organization based in Abuja, Nigeria. And we provide healthcare services for gay men and gay men living with HIV. And also we do human rights intervention for LGBT people in and around Abuja and its environs.
Wonderful, yes. Amazing work. I know it's not easy to do this work in such hostile environments. Ifeanyi, we have been talking about the situation of human rights for LGBT people in Nigeria, and we have been focusing on the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act. We are trying to explore what the effects of this law are. Given that a law was passed, we have seen it, another one was passed in Uganda, and we have already talked about the effects of that law. What are the effects of that law? But before we go in there, could you please give a recap to our viewers of what this law is about, just in brief? What is the law? What is it about? You know, what is it proposing? What is it putting in place?
Okay, the Same-Sex Prohibition, the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act 2013, according to the parliamentarians, is talking about marriage, definition of marriage in Nigeria and protection of marriage. But, you know, unfortunately, the case is different because the content of the law is different from the title of the law. And, you know, it talks about marriage a bit and elaborates more about gay organizations, gay club registration, you know, sustenance. And when we talk about sustenance, is also to look at organizations that probably are already legally registered and, you know, they need to clamp down on them, you know, and the rest of that. And then talks about aiding and abetting, which for us also, if you interpret it or going forward, that's critically is looking at service provisions, and then that is up to 10 years imprisonment for aiding and abetting, and also 14 years for the marriage for anyone who engages in a gay marriage or witnesses a gay marriage, or, you know, or officiates a gay marriage.
Wow, ridiculous what our African leaders are up to, like it is gay marriages you're looking for. But this is tricky. The law is actually titled Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition. But what you're saying in actual sense is that the contents of the law have very little to do with marriage. They are prohibiting human rights defenders from doing their work, is what I heard. They are prohibiting those who would like to engage in any kind of business, for example, opening up a bar or a school or something, whatever to promote the well-being of people, as long as it has a connection to somebody LGBT, is breaking the law. It is against all human rights work. It reminds me of this Ugandan law, and it looks like the law in Nigeria is also an anti-human rights law. So, thank you very much for that, and I think that in this, now that we understand a bit about what this law is about, it is time for you to give us, to help us to peep into what is happening in Nigeria. What are the daily lived realities of people after the passing? What has changed? What is Nigeria today? So yes, what is happening in Nigeria? How have people's lives changed? We have refugees in Uganda who have fled to Nairobi in Europe and to the United States. Do we have refugees in Nigeria who are fleeing out of Nigeria? Do we have people being killed? What is happening in Nigeria right now, if any?
Oh, well, the case has really changed in Nigeria compared to what it was before. We have had lots of people who have left the country because of fear of persecution or fear of being arrested or being thrown to jail. I personally would say that a lot of my colleagues and friends who are very close to me are no longer around. They are either living in Europe or living in America or living in Canada, and which is really an issue to worry about, because then people are no longer free to be who they are, or show affection, because the law also talks about show of amorous affection or relationship or whatever they call it in the law. And we have also taken out our time to look at pre and post the law. What has the effect been, particularly on service provision and also public health implications for HIV interventions for men who have sex with men. And we have recorded over time in this conference, we have also shown clearly the effect it has on people accessing healthcare services, legal justice, and access to justice. And it's really crazy, because when the law was passed in January, on February 13th, we recorded a massive mob attack in Abuja, Nigeria, where 14 gay men were thrown out of their house at the middle of the night, and that is for me, that's barbaric, and that's barbarism, because for the mere fact that you perceived, this was not as if any of them harassed or molested anyone sexually, but then you have people being thrown away out of their house, being beaten, and their things, amongst all their things, were being stolen, because a lot of them lost money, their phones, when they were running for their life. I actually was the one who went up there at 4 a.m. in the morning to look at what was happening, when people were calling me to say we are going to be killed if nothing is being done about this. And we were really, I was really touched, because when I got there, I saw how mean human beings could be. And I asked myself, the energy we have used or invested in fighting gay people, if we as Nigerians or even the government invest same amount of energy to fight insurgency, corruption, and what have you, and ensure the well-being of Nigerians, I'm sure Nigeria will be a better place for all of us. I see this as a way of goatscaping, using LGBT people as a scapegoat to get away with what you've not been able to deliver to in your government. And it's hilarious. The study that we did also has shown that 73% of the people that we provide services for no longer feel comfortable coming to the clinic, because people fear not to be arrested. And I have a quote which I got from one of the participants, which says that we will rather die on a sick body.
Ifeanyi, I'm losing you. I'm losing you.
Yes.
That's better. That's better.
Yes, the network the line is okay. So it's really worrisome to see. We have done researches and done studies to show that things are no longer the way they are right now, because people fear not to be arrested or persecuted, and people are no longer Well, there were people in jail as at the time, but right now, because of also the insurgency situation in Nigeria and the issue of bring back the girls, which has been overtaken by events, there are no more attention on LGBT people as it used to be when the law was newly passed. Do you understand? But then at the local level and at the grassroots level, there has still been human rights violations, people being beaten. There's been issue of blackmail and extortion, and things like that. So it's still happening, which.
Wow, Ifeanyi, that is really, really worrisome. Now, Kuchu TV is intended to bring your voice on the ground to the world. And most of the viewers are actually people who care about human rights globally. Ifeanyi, if I could give you just 2 minutes, what is that you would love to call the world to do in terms of the LGBT human rights situation in Nigeria? What can we do? What should we be doing?
Well, thank you very much for asking that question, Victor. This question has been asked a lots of times, countless times. And even though we have said, we have gone ahead to release, in terms of guidelines and guidance on how to provide or on how to work with LGBT people in Nigeria and what we want to see happen. But it's quite sad to see that even though we have said these things to the world, and then we see more attention being given to Uganda, and then actions are being taken in Uganda, and donors are also putting more money in Uganda, and nothing seems to be happening in Nigeria. And we ask, is our own case different? Are we not Africans as well? Even though we are Nigerians, aren't we Africans as well? What is the yardstick that you're using to measure in terms of where to focus attention? You're giving sanctions, you're talking to the government, you're doing all sorts that you're doing, and then you keep asking us, what can we do? And we keep saying, this is what you can do for us. So in my own reaction, I rather would say we need to look up for the call to action that we have sent out, and say and list of activities and guidelines that people should follow. And beside that, going forward, I think we need a much more dialogue and advocacy in this approach, because what we have seen happen is this has been viewed as a Western agenda. This is not a Western agenda. I keep saying to people, no. Homosexuality has long existed in Africa. It has long existed in Nigeria. It is not now. This is not a Western agenda. If we have been able to invest more in researches to find out what has been the history and the case of homosexuality, if there was no homosexuality, there would not be the pre-colonial law that we have enjoyed before, that we have inherited from the Britain before the Same-Sex Marriage Act came. So that means there has been homosexuality, same-sex relationships, and activities going on in the last decades and centuries before now. Do you understand? So it's not a new thing. This is not a Western agenda. I totally disagree with people when they say, it is not a Western agenda, and we are being viewed as the new rich kid on the block, because people feel that donors are giving us money to do. No. Yes. But we feel about the lives of the people. One of the things I've taken upon myself right now is we are doing what we call telling our stories. We want to show the world that we exist, we are here. We want to show even inclusive of Nigerians. We are human beings. We are Nigerians. Some of us do not. We have gay people who live in the remotest of the villages, who do not even have access to the internet or even have a phone. But they still feel something for same-sex people.
It is time to tell our
this
stories.
Is not a Western agenda. This is a way of life
where
that
we come from.
people.
But,
it's time to tell our stories.
I hear you say that there is a set of guidelines that you have issued as activists to the world. The Kuchu TV is actually going to share them on this channel, and we will also do whatever it takes as the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance to awaken the world to the fact that we need to do these things for Nigeria and with Nigerians. So I really thank you so much, guys out there. Ifeanyi has given it to us. People are suffering in Nigeria just as they are suffering in Uganda. The question he is asking, what is the yardstick that we use to measure action in terms of these issues? Are Nigerians not Africans? That is the question that they're asking. Something must be done on Nigeria. Ifeanyi, thank you so much for speaking on your behalf and on behalf of the so many voiceless in Nigeria. And we are so happy to have had you on this channel, and we hope to have you again in the future. Thank you so much. And welcome back to Kuchu TV, a media project of the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance, USA, your African LGBT news source. On the call with me today is Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla, a knight, an activist, human rights defender from Nigeria, but currently based in London, in the United Kingdom. Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla continues to do his human rights work even in exile. Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla is still committed to LGBT equality and human rights in Nigeria.
I do hear you very well.
Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla, do you hear me?
Yeah, you are.
How are you, my comrade?
I am indeed. Thank you.
You look amazing.
Oh, well, yes, it's a long time we've been on this struggle. I'm glad you remember.
That is
I'm
true.
glad you
You're
remember
one of the pioneers,
my title. Not, I don't use the sir all the time, and not many people even know that about me.
Well, sir is not common, especially among LGBT
Absolutely.
people. Among LGBT people, I know two sirs, Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla and Sir Elton John. Okay, so thank you for coming to the show, Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla. And as you are aware, Kuchu TV, a media project of the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance, has been bringing to the world the voice of African LGBT people. One of the biggest things that we do is to amplify the collective voice of our movement. So we are so honored to have you on the show. I have been following you on Facebook and on other media where you talk about the fact that you're concerned that the world is not as vigilant and not as committed to what is happening in Nigeria. We are all aware that a bill was tabled, an anti-gay bill was tabled in Nigeria many years before the Ugandan anti-LGBT bill, and then it was also passed into law months before the anti-homosexuality law in Uganda was signed. This is your chance, Sir Davis.
Thank you very much again for having me, because
what is happening in Nigeria?
It's very, very sad because actually the law that was passed, the anti-gay law that was passed on the 7th of January, which the President, Goodluck Jonathan, signed, actually started something like that. Started in 2006, and this went on from different parliamentary sections, from different leadership, different government, until finally President Jonathan succeeded in signing it. So really, Nigeria has been on the map for quite a long time. And even though I would say that the Ugandan law was actually emulating the Nigerian one, a lot of attention seems to be given to Uganda. I have asked many questions. I have raised concern. In Nigeria, there is what we know as a mob culture. That means that even while that law was being discussed as a bill in parliament, people were taking the laws into their hand. People were, if you are suspected to be gay, or they will just find you that yes, you are guilty without having the space to prove yourself. There is a lot of concern that the international community, even within the LGBTI community, we are only focusing, or mostly focusing on Uganda. When I ask questions, people said to me, Uganda is more manageable than Nigeria. And I am shocked. What do you mean by that in terms of human rights? The situation in Nigeria is more hostile than the situation in Uganda. And how do you mean? I thought this battle or this support had to be about conscience. But I now find out that it has nothing to do with conscience anymore. It's more like a political interest where people are looking for shortcuts. So the whole attention to Uganda sounds to me more like a shortcut or easy route rather than the places where people are really facing hostility, where life are in danger, where people cannot access health, where people, even those who are straight now, two brothers or two sisters can no longer rent.
So, Davis, you said that you're not saying that the Ugandan issue should not be on the table. Please elaborate on that.
Well, yes, I'm not saying that, and I'm not biased that, Uganda is keep popping up and keep popping in and being on the front line. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that as much as it's happening in Uganda, it's happening in Kenya, it's happening in Malawi, it's happening everywhere. And I believe that, if the international community are concerned, they should be concerned with the issues happening everywhere. But I'm saying that the countries where it is more hostile to be LGBT, why is those countries being neglected? This is what I'm saying. We can talk about Uganda, but at the same time, we should also put Nigeria and Cameroon and all these other countries where people are dying and things happening.
Yes,
at the front line. Yes,
that is why we have you online today. Yes, tell the viewers, what is it like in Nigeria now?
The president signed the law, the bill to become a law, what happened is that there were people begin to raid the homes of those they suspected to be gay. In Abuja, which is the federal capital of Nigeria, we saw where 14 people were raided and then were become homeless. They have to be scattered and don't have where to go. We saw where people are accused of being lesbians and then they will be beaten up. Sometimes they will use corrective rape to rape women to say that they are healing them of homosexuality. We saw parents disowning their children when they find out that they are gay. There is all kinds of, even some people being thrown out from their job. I know two teachers that were sacked from their job because they say, how can you be 35 years single and not married and not even having a girlfriend? So since after that law was passed in January, life has become very terrible for LGBT Nigerians. And this is what I want the world to know, and this is what I want the world to give attention to. Well,
all right, thank you. I mean, I've always known that things are really horrible in Nigeria. I mean, I'm from Uganda, and I am happy that the issues of my country are out there.
This is what
but
I
I'm
want to
so
tell you.
concerned about what is happening in Nigeria. Tell me, are people fleeing the country now?
LGBT refugees across Africa and across Europe and even in the US, because the situation has become very terrible. Even frontline human rights defenders have to even flee the country because they become an easy target for those who want to implement this law or interpret this law in a way that it suits them. So yes, we have seen an increase of LGBT asylum seekers here in the UK. Oh my God, I can't even begin to give statistics and the number, but I have seen in that month of January alone, I saw more than 30 LGBT people coming to seek asylum and refugee. So yes, we have seen an increase in this situation. Yes. In Africa, some of them without knowing
and we have some here
some of the neighboring countries actually have homophobic laws. They were only running for their lives. And so it means that I have had those who are from Nigeria, the easiest place they can flee to is places like Ghana, Togo, or Benin, which are neighboring. And these places are it's not an easy place to be an LGBT person either, but they have no choice. This is where they will go. Some who have access to travel have fled to the UK, some have fled to the US. There is an influx of LGBT asylum seekers in New York and sometimes in Chicago. So yes, it depends on where people can run to. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, David. The group that you founded, LGBT Christians in Exile.
Yes, our name says LGBT Christian in exile. That is our identity. But the fact is that we are there. It's a group for LGBT people, their friends and families and supporters. So we extend support to everybody that comes to us or that need us or that identify with us. As Christians, we cannot stand in the fence and look at when somebody, is in a situation that we can help, and we'll say because you are not part of us or you are not in our fold, we won't help you. So even though our name spells who we are, our support goes across every group.
All right, my dear Sir Davis Mac-Iyalla. As we wind up this call, what 2 things do you want to send out to our viewers? The world is watching. The world is listening. It is Nigeria time on Kuchu.
Thank you very much.
TV.
The first thing I want the world to know is that it's very sad that human rights defenders, LGBT activists, people like me that have started work in Nigeria for many years, and for any reason, if you have to go into exile to be safe to continue your work, all of a sudden, you become like a forgotten city, you become like a forgotten community. I think the international community needs to begin to look into what LGBTI activists in the diaspora can contribute. Because I'm in exile does not mean that I don't have a voice again, and does not mean that my work have come to an end. That's one point I want the world to know about. It's a form of discrimination. Exactly.
It is happening here in the US too. A lot of us, most of us feel that we have been boycotted, and we do not have the space to do our work. But
thank you. And that's the thing that the exile community must be taken very, very seriously. There's something about Nigeria. There's a lot the international community can do. Nigeria have NGOs. There are coalitions in Nigeria that are working on this issue. Find out how you can support them. Connect with the people on ground. Connect with the Nigerian LGBT diaspora group as well. It's not only the people, activists on ground cannot do it alone. The diaspora and both those at home are all needed. The voices from all angles, they are all needed. We need support from our international organization, from the international community, from the UN community, but we need to connect. There is no connection in Nigeria. Stop neglecting Nigeria. Connect with the people and ask how well you can support them, and listen to the people, and they will tell you what support they need. We need media support. We need education. We need financial support. There are so many ways that you can support this cause and these issues taking place in Nigeria. Nigeria need the people in Nigeria need legal advice. It's very costly to sponsor litigation. There are so many ways that the international community can help to support the issue in Nigeria. Begin to think about it. Begin to make effort. Begin to connect. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. There is activists like Dorothy Akanova of Increase that have been doing a very good job, a long-time old friend. I can't begin. There's a lot of them that I can't begin to mention by name. But once I say Dorothy, that will cover for everybody. And there are those who are supporting very deeply that cannot show, come out in the public. We value their support. So whichever stage you want to perform or you want to support, we welcome you, and we support our straight allies and friends in and out of Nigeria. Thank you. Yes.
So,
Davis Mac-Iyalla, you will just see my name. Just type in my name, Davis Mac-Iyalla, and I'm out there for you.
Thank you. When you mentioned Dorothy Akanova,
thank you very much.
And so you've had it for yourselves. You've had them speak, the very concerned activists from Nigeria. They are calling us to action. They are waking us up. They are calling us to support them in fighting human rights violations in Nigeria. Ifeanyi mentions the guidelines that were issued for all of us to follow in supporting the human rights movement in Nigeria. The Kuchu TV, the Kuchu Diaspora Alliance, is setting up a Facebook page, which you're all going to see, where we will be circulating these guidelines again. Please, I encourage you to keep in touch with the Nigerian LGBTI activists. They are available. If you have no way of contacting them, please contact Kuchu Diaspora Alliance. Contact me or any other member of the organization. We call upon all human rights organizations, local, regional, and international. We cannot remain silent amidst human rights violations anywhere. We cannot just deal on one country. We cannot just deal on a few countries that are highlighted in the press. There are issues in all these countries, and it is time for us to look at this huge cake that we have and divide it up so that we all get a piece. We cannot even finish it. Please, let us spread our wings and take care of the real issues affecting our continent, the real issues affecting LGBTI people globally. A certain country might not have anybody bringing its issues in the news. But look, it is still our responsibility to find ways of reaching out to every country and learning what the human rights situations are in those countries. We cannot say that we shall deal with only those that are being praised. I am from Uganda. I am very concerned about my country, the human rights situation there. However, as a human rights defender also, I am concerned about the human rights situation elsewhere. Do not give up on Uganda. We have done a great job. But please rise up in terms of all the other countries in Africa. We thank you very much. Please look out for the new page of Kuchu TV on Facebook, and our website too, just a heads up, is coming up soon. Thank you very much, and see you next week with another wonderful special feature on some place in Africa. Thank you. Bye.